One thing everyone knows about the Trojan War is the ending. A giant horse throws up a bunch of Greek soldiers. Sadly, that's not the whole story. Legend says the Trojan War began when the nymph named Thetis marries a king named Peleus. At their wedding, all of the Olympians were invited except for one. Eris, the goddess of discord, was left out. Seeing that she was the goddess of discord, it was a bad idea. In extreme anger, she threw down a golden apple said to be for the fairest. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite all fought over who would get the apple, but could not decide between themselves. Eventually, they asked the young king Paris who was the fairest. Of course, they tried to bribe him. Hera offering Asia and Europe, Athena's skill and wisdom in battle, and Aphrodite, who offered the most beautiful woman in the world, who happened to be Helen of Sparta. Of course, the man falls for the lady, and Aphrodite gets the golden apple. Then the actual war, with fighting boats and loud war cries, began when the Trojan prince Paris abducted Queen Helen of Sparta. Queen Helen's husband convinced his brother to send out an expedition to retrieve their lost queen. The Mycenaeans, Greeks, formed their super awesome hero team. The team consisted of Achilles, the strongest, Agamemnon, the great king, Menelaus, Helen's real husband, Ajax the greater and Ajax the lesser, both renowned for their strength, Diomedes, the cool one, and Odysseus, the shrewdest of the bunch. These super awesome heroes were accompanied by a fleet of over 1,000 ships, as well as many more soldiers for the siege of Troy. This extremely long siege went on for 10 years. While the siege was going on, trade was still being made as well as reinforcements, so they could hold out for years without slowly losing soldiers. 9 years later, and everything is just about the same. Life goes on in Troy. Greeks are homesick, and the upper hand is changed like an on and off switch thanks to divine intervention. Thus comes the 10th year, the last year, and is the most famous of all the war. Agamemnon, the king, took a high priest daughter as a concubine, which made him sort of mad, and calling the god Apollo, who was like, more reasons to mess with the Greeks? Sweet! So he sent a plague to the Mycenaeans, which was cause enough to have Achilles to question why he didn't give the concubine back. Agamemnon basically said, ugh, fine, let I get your concubine. Achilles does the right thing and agrees, but then gets ticked off and refuses to fight. This does not sway the Greek advantage at the time, but the leverage quickly shifts in favor of the Trojans. Agamemnon then tries to attack at the same time that Hector, the leader of the Trojans, does. They fight before coming to a short truce, ended by an archer shooting at the other, and continue on the attack. Diomedes, who is strengthened by Athena, starts to slay a lot of soldiers, and is making quite a large dent in the army. Up in Olympus, Apollo starts talking to Athena and convinces her that even more death and destruction should continue, rather than her chosen hero end the war in a day. A duel follows, then everyone goes home. Agamemnon starts slaying the Trojan forces, a minor hero gets injured, so when Patroclus goes to see who it is, he is convinced to try and change Achilles' mind about this whole no fighting thing. Before he can do this, however, Zeus conjures up a lightning storm which forces the Greeks all the way back to their ships. Then Poseidon decides to help the Greeks by giving the two Ajaxes basically superpowers. With this, the Greeks start winning again, but a small force of Trojans begin to infiltrate the camp and threatening to set fire to the ships, despite the best efforts of Ajax the Greater, Odysseus, and Diomedes. Achilles, torn his alliances, sent Patroclus in his armor to lead the battalion in order to repel Hector and his allies. In the fight that ensues, Patroclus is killed by Hector, who takes his armor, but the Greeks manage to recover Patroclus' body before Hector hurts it any further. News soon reaches Achilles' ears, and he reconciles with Agamemnon and goes to join the fighting, clad in the new armor made for him by Hephaestus, and slays all the Trojans that come before him. The gods come down from the sky in what appears to be the end of the war. Hector is slain, but heavy losses on both sides. The Greeks hold Patroclus' funeral, and realizing that Troy can no longer be taken by force, make a plan to end the war. The Greeks make it seem like they've given up and gone home. The boats have gone, and all that remains is a giant wooden horse left in their encampment. Now there is a lot of joy, but the Greeks have left a messenger with the horse, saying that the horse is a gift to the goddess Athena to grant them safe passage through the sea. They only bolstered the Trojans, who took it into their city, not realizing that it was chock full of Greek soldiers who crept out in the middle of the night and took the city. Thus ends the Trojan